Hello everyone, it's Marc Sabatella from Mastering MuseScore here. I'd like to welcome you to the MuseScore Café. So this is Wednesday, the 9th of November. It's our second week of the month, and this is kind of one of my wild card weeks where, first week I do an Ask Me Anything, third week I focus on a particular score. Today, we're going to be talking about bugs. We're going to talk about testing, reporting bugs, finding them, dealing with them, coming up with workarounds, anything there is having to do with the fact that we all know software sometimes has things in it that we need to see about how to fix or get fixed. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. And see what questions I can answer along the way. But that's what we got going here. So I'm going to be talking about both MuseScore 3 and MuseScore 4 in this process. But of course, I'm going to be focusing a bit on the process for reporting bugs in MuseScore 4 because that's what we're actually focused on right now as far as bug fixes. So let me just set the stage a little bit here. I'm going to do a quick rundown of the history of MuseScore. For people who don't really know how we got where we are. It was a little over 10 years ago, actually almost 11 years ago, that MuseScore 1 came out. And since then, there was MuseScore 1, and then there was a 1.1, and a 1.2, and a 1.3, and, those were basically fixing bugs, right? And then after several years after MuseScore 1 came out, I think it was 4 years later, MuseScore 2 came out. And when it came out, there was a long beta process leading up to MuseScore 2. It was almost a year-long beta testing process. And that was way long for betas. That was crazy. MuseScore 1 had a beta. It was like 3 weeks, I think. It was short. MuseScore 2 had like a almost year-long beta program, and it was a lot of bugs found, a lot of bugs fixed. But then, as soon as a program comes out, immediately people who didn't participate in the beta decide now it's time to download it, and then they start discovering more bugs. So right after any major release like that, you can expect 2.01, 2.02, 2.03, just to fix the bugs that realistically could have been found during beta, except not enough people tested it. So one of my reasons for doing this is to encourage more people to actually take part in the MuseScore 4 beta. So then the same thing happened for MuseScore 3, right? MuseScore 3 came out, and there was a beta program for that. It lasted about, I want to say, 4 or 5 months. That's about how long that one. Actually, I think there was an alpha that was like 4 or 5 months, and the beta was maybe only a month or two. And that felt pretty rushed, actually, to have that beta only be a month or two, I think. But I've actually forgotten the details there. But yeah, certainly when MuseScore 3 came out, lots of bugs, and they got found right away, and there was a 3.01, 3.02, 3.03. So 3.0 something means we're not really adding features, we're just fixing bugs. 3.0.1, 3.0.2 means it's basically 3.0 but with bug fixes. Then there's like a 3.1 that actually adds some new features, and that was the case for MuseScore 1 also, right? MuseScore 1.1 added new features and fixed bugs. MuseScore 1.2 added features. MuseScore 1.3 added features. For MuseScore 2, there was a 2.1, a 2.2, and then a 2.3. So each of those, what are called, I don't know what they're called, minor releases. Major release is 1, 2, 3, and now 4. Minor release is the 2.1, 2.2, 2.3. So MuseScore 3 is now on 3.6, right? That's our minor release, 3.6. And then 3.6.2 means there's been 2 bug fix releases since MuseScore 3.6 came out. The 3.6.0 came out and had some bugs. Some of them got fixed in 3.6.1. More of them got fixed in 3.6.2. And that was like almost 2 years ago, and there's been no bug fix releases since then. And it's not because new bugs haven't been discovered. It's because all the bugs that are found are being fixed for MuseScore 4. MuseScore 4 is going to include all the bug fixes for anything that was ever reported against MuseScore 3.6 that for which we actually came up with a fix. I mean, I'm not saying every single bug has been fixed, but if it's going to be fixed at all, it's going to be fixed in MuseScore 4. There's not going to be a 3.6.3. So where we are is we are in this beta program now for the MuseScore 4 release coming up. And MuseScore 4, so MuseScore 2 came out 4 years after MuseScore 1. So 1 came out in 2011, 2 came out in 2015, 3 came out in, I want to say 2018, end of 2018. Does that sound right? So 3 years after MuseScore 2. MuseScore 4 is going to come out in 2022. I got my fingers crossed on that one. No guarantees it's actually going to make it out by 2022. It's going to depend on how many more bugs get found and how long it takes to fix them. So maybe it's early 2023, but I didn't say that because they're all banking on it being 2022. But yeah, it's going to be within the next small number of months. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, somewhere in there. Not as long as 3, I'm not expecting. So there's basically a few weeks to find more problems with MuseScore 4 and get them fixed before the release. So I want to talk about that process, and I'm going to talk about it relative to MuseScore 3 as well as relative to MuseScore 4. All right, so that's my my background. So the beta release came out, what, like a month ago? Does that sound about right? Maybe. And so it's going to have been 2-3 months worth of beta before MuseScore 4 came out. And MuseScore 4 has had alpha release for a long time. And MuseScore 4, the actual software, I'm going to say, is in pretty good shape. The software itself, bug-wise, yeah, there's bugs, sure. But having the perspective that I have, I was around for all of those. You know, MuseScore 1 had a beta, MuseScore 2 had a beta, MuseScore 3 had a beta, and there were even betas for some of those minor releases. I think there was a MuseScore 3.5 beta. I forget, you know, how many of these had betas. Some of the minor releases were big enough they had their own betas. Usually it's just the major releases that get them. But compared to the others, I would say MuseScore 4's beta is in the best shape since MuseScore 1. MuseScore 1 beta was in really good shape because basically it had been out for it had been ready for MuseScore 1 for a long time as it was. The rest of the betas, you know, there were tons and tons of bugs. The beta version of 2 and the beta version of 3 were unusable. MuseScore 4 has reached the point of being usable. That's great. Muse Sounds, the specific new sound library that's part of MuseScore 4, it was never seen by anyone outside its own development team until the beta a few weeks ago. So Muse Sounds is, yeah, it's beta quality. It's not ready for release yet. It's still beta quality. So let's see. Calling your question about working on a tune page. I don't know what working on a tune page of MuseScore even means, so I'm not sure what that means. But I didn't know you even had a Mac. Anyhow, so I don't know how to answer that question. But so let's talk about now what a bug is, and I'll talk about how it gets reported, what happens after that, and so forth. So my guess, Colleen, is that you haven't actually installed MuseScore on the Mac. That's my guess. So maybe that's something. Yeah, you probably haven't installed MuseScore yet, is my guess, because this is MuseScore. This is what it should look like. If you don't see this, you haven't installed MuseScore yet, or you're not running. Maybe you installed it, but you're running something else. So you have to install and run MuseScore. All right, so let's talk about what a bug is. A bug is when a program when it does something other than what it's expected to do. And there's any number of bugs that I could tell you about that exist in MuseScore 3. Let me show you one of them. I'll show you what a bug looks like. So I'm going to enter into Voice 3 some notes. Let me make those 2/8 notes. Doesn't matter really what they are. So I've entered, and then maybe another rest. Uh, and oops, eighth rest and a note. All right, so there's my voice 3 notes. Oh, and let me get my thing going so you can all see what I'm typing. All right, I am now going to select this measure and I'm going to come to Tools, Toggle Rhythmic / Notation. And this does this nice thing of taking that rhythm, notating it above the staff. This is a common thing that we do in jazz charts for rhythm section to show maybe there's a melody or something else going on the staff, but we want to indicate like an accompaniment rhythm above the staff. Real common thing. So far, so good. Now let's try to enter my melody onto the staff. So I'll enter some notes. So what's happened here is these rests that were previously above the staff are now on the staff. In fact, if I move this note further down, we'll see, I guess not. But yeah, that note, before I started entering notes on here, these rests were sitting above the staff, not on top of the staff. And it's worse if this is a drum part. So that was a bug in 3.6.2. It had been working up until 3.6, and then it broke. And if there had been a 3.6.3, I'm sure that would have been fixed, but it wasn't. So this is a bug, that this doesn't happen. And the place where bugs that are already known for MuseScore 3 get reported is if you go to MuseScore.org, under Support Issue Tracker. This is where bugs get reported. This is a list of all the bugs that have been reported. It tells you what version people were running when they reported the bug and so forth. And if I go in here and look for rhythmic slash to see, gee, has someone reported this bug here? I'm going to see a bunch of bugs about ties not positioned correctly and so forth. And so I would want to look to see if my bug that I've just discovered has already been reported. That's what I want to do. I'm going to just bring up the chat on my other computer here so I can keep looking at it, even though I've... Actually, let me go ahead and pin this dude here. Pin my chat here. Okay, so when I go to the list of issues in this issue tracker, I'm looking to see, do I see anything about rests here? And I don't actually see the word rest in here. So maybe I'm going to try a better search. Instead of, I was type rhythmic slash and then rest. You don't have to type a whole sentence, just some keywords. And when I search for that, oh, rests in voice 4, rhythmic slash notation not posted well. Hey, there's one from me from back in 2016. But this isn't the same thing. This is about voice 4, and this was posted in 2016 long before 3.6.2 came out. 3.6.2 came out in 2021. And I'm telling you, this bug that I'm just reporting here is new. So this is some older bug about how rests work in voice 4. It says in voice 3, rests are moved above the staff. So this is not the bug I want. So it kind of looks like the bug that I'm talking about hasn't been reported. And yet, I know it has been. So my next question to myself is, well, is the reason that it's not showing up because by default, we're only searching for open issues. See this under status where it says open issues? Open issues means ones for which there hasn't been a fix yet. That's basically what that means. If I tell it instead to look for any, and now click that filter button here, now you're going to see, oh, rests in rhythmic slash notation not offset. It's closed, and that's why it's colored in kind of this peach color here. So and also, yeah, these other issues here are marked as closed. So let me try this one, rests not offset. That seems to be probably the right one. And hey, look, that's me reporting it again. I report a lot of bugs. I report a lot of bugs. So, and I've fixed, I don't know how many bugs I've fixed in my life for MuseScore, but it's hundreds for sure. Probably not 1,000, but hundreds. I haven't done much work at all on MuseScore 4, but I did just fix a couple this week, actually. I can only do little things now because I no longer have all the tools that I would need to really do active development, but I can do tiny little things. So, rests in rhythmic slash notation, not offset. And yeah, this is describing exactly the problem here. And it's showing a worse case of it, right? It's showing, hey, look, those rests are all the way on the staff. Oh, that's because I did fill with slashes here instead of entering actual notes. Let me see if that's the case still. If I go undo those note changes, I'm just going to undo things. And let me select this and say tools, fill with slashes. Oh yeah, look at that. When I use fill with slashes, those rests fall all the way onto the staff. That's the real problem. Not that they were barely overlapping it, but that they're totally there. So something about that combination is broken. So I can look at this report now and see that I've reported it. And I can see, hey, look, here's some activity on it. So the comments sometimes will just be questions. Sometimes they'll be, people saying, wait a minute, could you explain a little better how to reproduce that? These comments typically come from other developers. This was from someone, Tobik, I don't even know who that is actually, but he or she, submitted, it says status changed to PR created. PR stands for pull request. A pull request basically is, in the world of open source software, that means someone has come up with a fix for the bug. Someone who has access to the source code, and because it's open source, everyone has access to the source code. But, you have to know what you're doing with it to be able to actually fix a bug. So someone who has access to the source and actually figured out how to fix the problem created a pull request. And a pull request says, I have a fix. Will you please pull it into MuseScore? That's what you're saying. I request that you pull it into MuseScore. And this here is the link to the actual pull request. And the pull request here will have some discussion about how he fixed it. It'll show the actual code. Like here, if I click where it says files changed. So yeah, you're getting a good look inside the whole process here. This is the actual code. So it used to say if offset voices, but now it says if offset voices and voice less than 2. This is all computer programming speak, but you can see every line of code that he wrote. And that was it. It was a real short fix. It really just involved removing 2 lines and then adding 3 lines to replace them. And that was it. Basically, it's what we call a one-line fix. Really, it was just about replacing this line with that line and then updating some comments. Everything you see starting with / is just a comment. That's not actual computer code, but it's like little comments we put to remind us what this code is actually doing. So anyhow, this lets us see that pull request. It's not necessarily interesting to most people to look at the code, but to know that, hey, look, there was a pull request created, and then to see the status was updated to say fixed, that fixed in branch whatever, this is your indication that that pull request was actually merged. And then someone then will say, the fix version, meaning what version of MuseScore actually contains that fix. This field is not, some of this stuff happens automatically, this part doesn't. But here, we can look at it and see, hey, Yo-Yo has come along and marked that the fix is in 4.0. So now I know that that bug is fixed in 4.0. And in fact it is. If I open MuseScore 4, which I'm going to do because I'm going to want to have it open anyhow, I'm going to go through those same exact processes. I'll create a new score. And click. Oh, fine. I'm trying to click the relevant button here, but it's hidden behind my chat. I'll enter some voice 3 notes exactly as I did before. And then I will select this measure. Say tools, toggle rhythmic / notation, and then tools, fill with slashes, and yay, the rests are still above the staff. Now they're not totally above the staff, right? In MuseScore 3, this was the case also. They kind of sat on that top line. I'm not like crazy about that behavior. but at least it didn't fall all the way onto the staff like it did in MuseScore 3. So this is perhaps its own issue, like its own separate bug that, okay, we don't have the same bug we had in MuseScore 3, right? In MuseScore 3, those rests fell all the way onto the staff. So that it's like overlapping that slash. That's terrible. Here, it's only partially overlapping the staff. So it's only partially overlapping. And I am seeing the chat on the install stuff. And yeah, it's definitely the case that you're going to have to install it separately. And the link that you've posted here, Dave, MuseScore 4 update, I think is maybe kind of old. No, that's good. I saw, oh, look at that. MuseScore 4 update announcing our beta, but this says about the. So there's like, obviously the title must have changed on this post or something. I don't know what happened. But yeah, this is the right post, and it's got the links for MuseScore 4 update. However, this is not what you want, Colleen, unless you are specifically trying to do beta testing, unless you want to do beta testing. I'm going to talk about what this really means in a moment, because that's kind of what I'm here for. You don't want MuseScore 4. You just want MuseScore 3. So, because MuseScore 4 is still, buggy and still we're encouraging people to test, and that's, kind of the main audience here. But so let's talk about this. MuseScore 4, I said, is in pretty good shape. It's in pretty good shape. But pretty good shape doesn't mean you actually are encouraged to use it for real work. Definitely not. So let me come in here and just put in the regular link. You're going to go to musescore.org. That's it. HTTP musescore.org. When you click this link, it's going to take you to the main page, and right there, free download. And then you'll see download for Windows, download for Mac, and download app image, which is for us people on Linux like I am. I'm on a Chromebook, but Chromebooks run Linux, kind of, sort of. That's how I access it. So you're going to want to click the download for Mac. So this is relevant because MuseScore 3 is still what I will recommend for doing real work. Even though I said MuseScore 4 is in pretty good shape, yeah, I wouldn't recommend anyone do any real work in it. It's good for testing. It's good for preparing the way. Do some work in it that you don't mind if it gets messed up, if you have to redo it for whatever reason, because there could be bugs that destroy your score. Maybe there's not any known, but what happens is, yeah, bugs happen. New bugs get fixed every day in MuseScore 4. But new bugs get introduced every day in MuseScore 4. Let me show you a bug that just got introduced a couple weeks ago and then just got fixed today. In MuseScore, let me close the mixer here. In MuseScore 4 here, if I enter a note and I tie it, by the way, the shortcut has changed to T for tie. It's one of the only changes to shortcuts that you need to know about. Tie used to be plus, now it's T. The reason it's changed is that, and I've mentioned this before, is that now plus is going to be the shortcut for a sharp. If I type plus C, I get a C sharp. So plus is now the shortcut to kind of pre-select an accidental. Minus is the shortcut for flat, and equal sign is the shortcut for natural. We never used to have shortcuts for accidentals like that. You can enter them using arrow keys, but we never had shortcuts by default for actually just directly entering the accidental, and that was kind of silly that we didn't, but the reason we didn't was because no one could agree on what they should be. People would always say, hey, it should be minus, plus, and equals, but plus was already taken for tie, and no one wanted to make people have to unlearn that. And there were a couple of other things that got suggested, but everything that anyone ever suggested for the accidentals turns out to conflict with something. So finally, for MuseScore 4, someone said, that's it, we're tired of this. We are going to make people relearn something, and it's going to be tie. So tie is the thing that got sacrificed to make the accidental shortcuts possible. And one thing I will say, I'm getting used to it. I am totally getting used to T for tie. I still make that mistake occasionally of accidentally typing plus. But I do like T for tie because it's right by the letter keys, right? So if I'm entering a C, and then I want to type the T is pretty close to the C key, right? It's close to where the letters are. Plus is way off to the side. I use a different hand for that. So I kind of like that I can enter T with the same hands that I'm using to enter my notes with. Also, one thing I like about T for tie is it kind of relates it to S for slur. You know, ties and slurs are kind of sort of related, right? They're not the same thing at all, but they're kind of sort of related. They look similar, if nothing else. And people confuse them all the time. So anyhow, that's that story. So what was I going to say? Oh, what I was going to say is listen to this playback. And it's actually pretty quiet because I turned down my mixer a while ago. So it plays back just fine, right? But let me add a couple more notes. And play it again. But now I'm going to take this and I'm going to add a slur. I'll select that measure and add an S. Let's hear this now. You hear what just happened? Check that out again. That C played twice. That C played twice. It didn't tie. So without the slur, it plays fine. Right? With the slur, the tie got broken. So that was a bug that got introduced maybe about 2 weeks ago. It worked fine for a long time, and then someone fixed some other bug involving ties and glissandos, I think. And in the process of fixing that, they broke ties with respect to slurs, is basically what happened. So that got broken. Let's track and see what's actually going on with this. Let me bring my chat back and repin it. Is this how I pin? Pin right there. So the shortcut for natural is going to be equals, but again, only in MuseScore 4. MuseScore 3 doesn't have a shortcut for it directly. You have to do it. You have to add it from the palette. Yes, people are starting to upload MuseScore 4 scores. Absolutely they are. That is starting to happen. So for ties, yes, you enter the note value of the tie first before T. It works exactly like plus did for MuseScore 3. You enter 3, if you want to tie something to a 16th note, you type 3 plus in MuseScore 3, but in MuseScore 4, you will type 3T. So exactly the same, except it's T instead of plus. So in MuseScore 3, by the way, you can define shortcuts for the accidentals. You can define your own if you want to be able to enter accidentals a little more easily. Like here's how I would enter it. I would type in my C and then come up here to the toolbar and find the accidental, except I can't see the equals. There it is. I'm looking for an equal sign. So I just entered my C, then used the toolbar. But there's no shortcut built in MuseScore 3. And of course, no amount of arrow keying is ever going to give you that natural sign in the key of C, because it's already natural. The only reason to need it would have been it's a courtesy accidental, and the toolbar would do it. So coming back to what was I going back to MuseScore 3 for? Was it just to answer that, or was it for some other reason? Well, what I want to do is I want to track what's going on with that whole tie business. That's really what I want to do. So I want to show you now for MuseScore 4 that issue tracker business is not being used. So for MuseScore 4, there's a pretty, this is one of the things, it's still beta. If you go to the help menu and see report a bug, don't do this. No. Know this. If you click this, it's going to go to the old, at least I think it's going to, it looks like it does nothing. Well, nothing is better. Is that really going to be the case? Report a bug, does nothing. All right, maybe it does on some systems, but on my system it's doing nothing, which is better than what it was doing before, which is take you to that old issue tracker. So on MuseScore.org, support issue tracker, right? This is where I said the bugs are listed for MuseScore 3. For MuseScore 4, we are not using this issue tracker. We are using GitHub. GitHub is where MuseScore source itself lives. So I'm going to go show you where GitHub is and how to access this. I'm going to open a new tab here, and I'm just going to type github.com. And then you can, let's see how to do this if you didn't already know how to do this. I'm going to search for MuseScore. And when I search for MuseScore using that search box at the top, you'll see 674 repository results, of which the first one is the one we want. This is MuseScore. Lowercase MuseScore is the name of the organization. Capitalized MuseScore is the name of the specific project. So we are going to go to MuseScore. This is now, I have this bookmarked personally. So this is where what we're looking at here, this is MuseScore. This is the source code for MuseScore. This is where the source code for MuseScore is stored. If you want to look at it, we can go into this src directory. We can go into any given, let's click the engraving folder, libmscore, accidental.cpp. This is source code here. This is C++ code that is implementing accidentals in MuseScore. So GitHub is where the source code for MuseScore lives. GitHub is a system used by a lot of open source projects to kind of house their code. But what I'm going to do now is go back to the main MuseScore page here on GitHub. We're going to click here where it says issues. This is where bugs are going to get reported. So when I click issues, this is a similar list to what the issue tracker on MuseScore.org did. MuseScore.org, remember, well, let's take a look at that one just so we can compare, right? It showed you all the issues and had little things saying their status and other stuff and had little titles and whatnot. Well, it's the same thing basically for the GitHub issue tracker, which I got to by clicking issues. You can see all the issues here. You can see their titles. Some of them have little color-coded priority markings on them. These are the ones that have been identified as, yes, they are going to be fixed before the release. At least all the P0s will be. P1s probably will be. P2s might be. P3s probably not unless someone volunteers to fix it. So the thing to know about MuseScore in development is there is a paid team of developers, right? I mean, the whole reason why MuseScore.com has pro accounts is to generate money to pay developers. Originally that started like 10 years ago when the original developers, that's how they got paid, is they created MuseScore.com. They had these pro accounts, and it generated just enough money to allow them to make a small living. However, legal issues with copyright infringement and so forth got in the way, and they eventually had to sell to another company who expanded what MuseScore.com could do very greatly, and it's now able to generate more money, and now it's able to pay a larger team of developers. So there's a team of, say, I don't know, we'll say half a dozen or so. I don't know the total number. Maybe it's 10. Could be a dozen. I don't even know them all. So there's a set of developers scattered around the world who are actually paid by money generated from MuseScore.com accounts. And they are the ones doing a large amount of the development for MuseScore 4. But there are volunteers like myself and some others who are doing little fixes here, adding little things here and there. And so some of these things that are marked P3 might be the sort of things that get implemented by miscellaneous volunteers. So this is the search box here. Let's see if I can find a bug about that. It said tie. I'm going to just type tie and playback. Maybe that's, I'm just trying to think of keywords that might find that bug. So tie playback. Now when I do this, clicking multiple times, first note of triplet, use choir, lagging, playback speed, dynamics. Yeah, none of this stuff looks related. Oh, there's falls don't play on the last note of a tie. That was submitted by someone we know. But that doesn't seem to be finding it. What if I just look for tie and just try tie? See you later, Colleen. Have fun. To see if anything else here is about that. And I could look all day long. I'm not going to find a bug report on that thing that I just showed you with ties. But it's for the same reason that I just said. look at this. It's by default. Remember how in the MuseScore 3, in the old MuseScore bug reporter, there was this drop-down menu that says Open Issues, and I had to change that to say Any. On GitHub, it's all right here. Is issue, meaning it's only searching for issues. Is open, meaning it's only searching for open issues. Well, I'm just going to delete the thing that says is open. Now it's going to find all issues. In fact, let's just look for is closed. Is closed. Now it'll find issues that involve ties that have been closed. And I'll search for that. And let's see if now I can find, tie not applied during playback. That's the one. So this is the bug, and you can see was closed 10 hours ago. It just got fixed last night. Because 10 hours ago, that was the middle of the day for the people who fixed it in Europe. Well, maybe not the middle of the day, but it was whenever it was. So, and you can see it was marked as P0. It was marked as critical. It was definitely going to be fixed. So let's just click on it just so we can see what an issue looks like here. So someone, Henk de Groot, had posted this issue, and he describes the bug. Notes which are tied sound in playback. Notes which are tied sound and playback as individual notes, right? So, and Dave, I'll come back to your question in a second, because it's a really good question actually, because I'm interested in testing this myself. So he's describing the bug, giving steps to reproduce the bug here, telling you what the expected behavior is, telling you that he was on Windows here, and because these are all things that were when you go to submit a bug, and I'll show you how to submit one yourself, you'll see that there's some stuff there. It's like a template for you to fill out. And so you can, again, see the comments that were there, and some of the comments are removed sometimes because they're pretty, I don't know what the adjective we'll use, draconian, perhaps, about deleting discussion. They don't want to see discussion in these issue reports. They just want to see factual information about the bug itself. So they will delete comments that are speculation or whatever, anything that's not directly related to how to reproduce the bug or insight into fixing it. Those will get deleted. And so try not to be offended if that happens to you. They do like to have these videos so that if you, and it looks like you can upload a video. I've been posting links to YouTube, but I guess if you upload a video, it'll play it, and then you can actually hear this thing. Right? So they encourage you to upload a video if it helps, but also uploading a score itself will often help, and I'll show that. There's all this information about the bug, but ultimately at the end you'll see it's closed as completed. So this is the information that we are going to want if you want to test it right away. Now, normally what happens in MuseScore is if any bug that got fixed today, and 10 hours ago was still today in Europe, it's today as opposed to GMT. It's like if it was fixed by like 4 a.m. Greenwich time, then that's when these nightly builds happen. So in MuseScore, there are nightly builds, and let me show you how to access those. I don't actually remember the website address. I just grab it from here. So development builds. So I'm going to post this link into the chat. Nightly builds. There we go. We got our nightly builds there. So the nightly builds page has a couple of things that you will want to see. You'll see there's nightly builds for MuseScore 3, and there's nothing interesting to see there because it's still the same stuff. However, when it says MuseScore 4.x master, every night, all the bugs that got fixed that day get pulled, those pull requests means they got pulled in to the source, and these nightly builds will have those fixed. So if I go to Linux and click nightly, it will download the nightly build for last night. However, that was too late. That bug is not, that fix didn't make that cutoff. That bug will be fixed in tomorrow's nightly build. So tomorrow, if I come to this page and click if you're on Mac, you'll click the Mac OS page. If you're on Windows, you'll click the Windows page. If you're on Linux, you click the Linux page. When you click the Mac page, you'll see that there's all these files, and you'll see one that says MuseScore Nightly Latest. And that's what you want. It's a DMG file. You can download that thing, double click it in Finder, and it just gets installed. On Windows, when you click Nightly, you'll see MuseScore Nightly Latest, and it's a 7Z file. This is a zip file. You have to download that thing and then unzip it with a program called 7-Zip, and then navigate into the right folder and double-click the executable. So it's a bit more of a pain in the butt to do that on Windows. There is not a log of fixes, but what you can do is go to this issue tracker. Well, what you could do is go to pull requests. So see, we're here under issues. Let's go to pull requests. If I go to pull requests, now it's is PR. And so that's going to list all the open PRs, which are things that are, someone has made a pull request, but it hasn't been merged yet. Well, let's change that to is closed. I don't know if there's a way to check if it was closed because someone changed their mind about submitting it, or if it got closed because it was merged. But in any case, if you search is PR and is closed, we will see all these ones. Oh, you'll see it says was merged, was merged, was merged, was merged, was merged, was merged. Are there any here that are? Oh, here's one that was closed, not because it was merged, but in this case, this is one that I then replaced. This is one that I made myself that I then replaced with an updated version, and so I closed it myself. I don't know if there's a special way to search, like if I can say is merged. I don't know if that's a thing. You'd have to do some research on GitHub to learn all the ins and outs of it. And yeah, it looks like is merged did good things. Yeah, it's not showing any other ones that weren't merged. So there we go. Is merged is the way to search. And so yeah, you can look and see anything that was merged in the last day. Those were the pull requests. Now if I go look at one of these, like here's one, fix crash when dragging glissando. It was merged. The very first line of the pull request will tell you which issue it resolves. So you come here, you click that, and now you will see the actual bug report. This is now the actual issue report. So the pull request was the code to fix the issue. Here is the actual issue. And you can see a video here where someone is demonstrating the problem. He's trying to drag this gliss. He drags the gliss, and it crashed. There you go. So that was a video to demonstrate the problem. Some bugs are better described by showing videos. Most of them are better described by actually just listing steps in English and attaching a score. So I'm going to now show you how to. Well, first I want to go back to that tie one. Where's that one about the tie? So these are the merged, fixed. I don't actually know which of these fixes was the one for tie. Man, there's a lot of things that got fixed just in the last few hours, huh? Wow. Play note when adding tie or repeating. No, that's me. That's something different. So I'm going to have to go back and find the issues and again search for tie playback because I want to show you something here. If you can't wait a whole day to wait for the next nightly build, I find this one here, tie not applied during playback, and then I click the pull request that actually closed it, and it's this one here. So I click here. This is the pull request here, and it says merged. So I will click this one. This is the pull request that supposedly fixes the tie problem. I can wait for tomorrow, and it will become part of a nightly. But there is a way to test sooner than that. So this is all pretty technical stuff, but hey, you know, these cafes, we cover different things every day, every week, and here's what we're covering this time. If you scroll around here, you'll see a check mark here. Basically, when people submit pull requests, they might add some code and then add some more code later, and then someone comments and says, hey, you should fix this a little differently, or you missed this case here. And so there's all these different lines here, but the last one will have a check mark by it. Click that check mark, and you'll see a pop-up here that lists all these different things. And here's a Linux build. There's a Mac OS build. So let's click the Linux build one. I mean the Mac OS bug version here, details. And then I'm going to click here where it says summary. Boy, this is a lot of stuff to wade through, but you know, these things are recorded, so you can watch it later. Then you scroll to the bottom and you'll see where it says artifacts. Click this guy. This will then download a zip file, and within that zip file will be the DMG file that you can then install, and then you'll be able to test that fix and see, hey, did it really fix it? Or you could just wait for the next day. I'm actually a little bit curious about this fix myself, because I want to see if it fixed another problem that I was having also, and I just want to see it work. So I'm actually going to go back to that check mark and click the Linux build summary and just download this guy. I'm going to download this zip file, and I'm going to place it in my, oh, I don't want to do it on this machine. Well, yeah, I'll do it on this machine. I was going to do it on a different machine, but I'll do it here. So anyhow, I would then be able to test that later. All right, so now let's get to actually submitting a bug. I wanted to give you some insight into what's going to happen with these bugs. Now I want to talk about what your job is if you are testing something and you find a bug. Your first task is to do all the things I just did to find out, did someone report that problem already? And don't just search just among the open issues. Like if I go to issues and I search for a bug involving Thai playback, it didn't show up there. But I would recommend not just doing that, but also doing a search without the is open and just check the first few to see if it was just fixed recently, to see if maybe it was fixed since, you know, if you don't have if your build that you're testing is a couple weeks old, maybe it's been fixed in those last couple weeks. So I would do a search without the is open to see if your bug is already been fixed and reported. Are bugs only certified as fixed if they're cleared on all platforms? There are incredibly few bugs that are platform specific, like 0.1% of bugs are platform specific. But it is the case that if the bug report itself said that it's platform specific, well, then it will certainly be checked on that platform. But in general, 99.9% of bugs affect all platforms because the source is the same on all platforms. There's only a tiny, tiny amount of source that's different between Windows and Mac and Linux. So it's very rare that a bug affects one platform but another. I'm not saying it never happens, but it's pretty rare. I don't think any of the last 100 or so bug fixes have been platform specific. So if I want to submit a bug fix, so now that I've searched and decided I don't see the bug that I'm looking for, so no one else has reported this thing, I will then I'll go back to where it says issues here. Let me close my comments for a moment here. There's this green button here that says new issue. And actually, let me just get to where I can see my comments and this at the same time, even better. I'm going to click where it says new issue. I then get this screen here where it says development issue, development task. You don't want development task. This shouldn't even be presented to an average user. These are things that the internal developers, in other words, those people who are actually being paid, they use to track future plans, basically. But this one that says development issue, you're going to want to click where it says get started. Now we're ready to submit our bug report. So if I was submitting a new bug report, I would want to, on this first box right up here, give it a good title. It starts off with MU4 issue, and that's what we're going to want to start with. And then you're going to put in your description of your bug. I'm gonna submit a bug. I'm going to go ahead and submit the fact that when I did this, these rests aren't positioned well. So I want to come up with a good one line description of that fact, that the rests just aren't positioned well. So I'm going to say rests in accent notation. That's a word that's used to describe that idea of rhythmic slash notation. Are not fully above staff. I don't know. I'm trying to find a way of describing this that's concise and yet precise. Okay, so I'm looking for one that's short enough to be not like a whole novel. You're not trying to describe all the steps to reproduce it just in the title, but you want the title not just to say bug or rest bad. You want it to be fairly specific. So rests in accent notation. I'm second guessing the word accent notation because it's called rhythmic slash notation. Rhythmic. The thing is that rhythmic slash notation can either be on the staff or above. Rhythmic slash notation, I'll say voice 3. Voice 3 rests, because that's really nice and descriptive. Voice 3 rests in rhythmic slash notation are not fully above staff. That's a pretty good description. These are voice 3. Those are my rests. It's not fully above the staff. Right? So that's what I would say. Now, actually, Joanne, getting to your question about with MuseScore 4, yeah, I definitely wouldn't recommend anyone who's not willing to go through all of this. Like, the reason to be downloading MuseScore 4 is because you want to report bugs, because you have a lot of free time on your hands, and you don't mind that it's going to crash, that it's not going to work that well in some places, and that there's going to be bugs that you will find, and you don't mind being slowed down by that, and then you don't mind actually reporting the bugs. So you have to have a certain amount of free time available in order for downloading MuseScore 4 beta right now or a nightly build to be worthwhile. Oh, before I finish doing this, I do have to point out one other thing. That page that had did I lose that page? The page that was the download page. Development builds for MuseScore. When I said you want this one that says nightly, don't be fooled by this one that says beta. Do not be fooled by that. This is not the beta. This is a year and a half old. It is terrible. It is just a horrible thing that we continue to have this link to something called beta that is not the beta at all. It's ancient. It's got a zillion bugs that have been fixed over the last year and a half. Do not get the beta from here. If you visit this page, which is the one that I posted earlier, only grab the nightlies. Do not grab the beta from that page. That is not the beta. The beta is on the page that Dave posted the link to earlier. That's where the beta is. So, anyhow, let's come back to my issue. So I've come up with a good title. Now it says describe the bug, a short and clear description of what the bug is. Well, I like to make my titles to be that already. So, but now I'll just make this slightly more verbose. If you enter a rhythm including rests in voice 3 and use toggle, I might just be specific, it's tools, toggle rhythmic slash notation. The rests are only partially above the staff. All right, so that's my description. It's just a little more verbose than the title. Okay. Next we want the to reproduce. And yeah, by the way, if you're not a programmer, that's okay. I'm not only addressing this for people who are programmers. It's for anyone interested in beta testing, right? If you're already a programmer, you've probably already dealt with this kind of stuff. If you're not a programmer, if you're just interested in reporting bugs, helping to make MuseScore 4 better, this is stuff you need to know. You need to deal with these things to be able to report bugs effectively. So if you have free time and are interested in helping test MuseScore 4, that I wanted to show you how to download it. And then, and we've talked about that before. I went through more detail about how to run it and use it. But if you encounter bugs, this session is about how to then report those bugs, because that's the whole reason to be using MuseScore 4. It's not because you want to have a better version of the program. It's not better yet. It's beta. So this is for people who are downloading it because they want to help test. Okay, I want to be really clear about that. So I've entered my description now, which is just a slightly more verbose version of things in my title. And now it says to reproduce, steps to reproduce the behavior. And here I'm going to delete their steps and enter my own steps. I'm going to say enter some notes, including rests in voice 3, select measure, tools, toggle rhythmic notation, and then see error. This is kind of weird, but this is how they like to see it. That the last step should say see error or hear error if it's a playback problem. So see error, rests are not fully above staff. And then under expected behavior, it says a clear and concise description of what you expected to happen. Rests should sit completely above the staff. Now, screenshots. Yeah, here's one where a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I'm going to come back to MuseScore. I'm going to do a little screenshot here. And actually, I'm going to do another version of this without the slashes, because you could see the problem before I had the slashes. So I'm going to go, let's enter voice 3, C, arrest, and then maybe an eighth note, C. No, I'm trying to make this look like reasonable things. So I like what I did before. 2 eighth notes, arrest, and another eighth note. So select the measure, and then tools, toggle rhythmic / notation, and then all I want is a picture of this. So I'm going to do a little screenshot here. Capture my screenshot and come back here, and you can paste screenshots directly into this window, which is kind of nice. And then I'll say platform information. I will say that I discovered this on Linux. It's almost never actually relevant. Almost all bugs affect all platforms, but this is how you would say what platform you were using when you found the bug. So if they're unable to reproduce it, they could say, I wonder if it's only that platform. For a lot of bugs where if I have any doubt, I would test on Windows also, but there's no doubt. This is not the kind of bug that would ever be platform specific. Any additional context, here's where I would say in MuseScore 3, the problem was worse. The rests, actually it wasn't just MuseScore 3, it was 3.6.2 because it was better before 3.6, before 3.6.2. The rests would sometimes not be offset at all, and this at least is fixed. And I think I actually want to go and link to that issue. So I'm going to come back over here and find that issue again, right here. So I'm going to just post that link, rests not offset. So I'm going to come back to my issue and say C, and there's that issue. But still, the default position should be higher. Also, I should test voice 4 while I'm at it, because remember that other bug said something was wrong on voice 4. Let me try that. Voice 4, quarter note, rest, good enough. And now let's select this thing. and say, because voice in rhythmic slash notation for voice 4, it's supposed to go below the staff. So let's see what happens. Toggle rhythmic slash notation. Yeah. Same story in voice 4, basically. They're not fully below. Similar story for voice 4 should be fully below. And now I do want to find that bug report. Voice 4 rhythmic slash notation not positioned well. Yeah, this is the one that said they're made small but not moved below the staff. Yeah. So I guess they weren't being moved at all at one point, but that's been fixed already. So they are moved, but it's not far enough. So I'm not going to bother referencing that bug report. So this is my bug report here. So yeah, this is my bug report. And yeah, of course, the music masterclass tomorrow will focus on music. It always focuses on music. But yeah, this is focusing on some technical things here about reporting bugs. So I've got my bug report here, and I'm happy with it. So I've got my screenshot. Now, if you wanted to attach a score, because sometimes you need to attach a score. Sometimes a picture isn't good enough because the problem is only in that score, and it's not going to be reproducible otherwise. So what you're going to need to do is it says attach files by dragging and dropping, selecting, or pasting them. If I click here, it lets me select a file. But if I go to my scores folder, you will see it's only showing me zip files and PNG files. It's only going to show me pictures and zip files, basically. So you cannot post a score directly to GitHub. That's a drag about GitHub. What you'll have to do is first zip your score. And so you'll have to use a zip program to zip up your score. Then you can attach the zip. Like here's a version of Reunion that I already zipped. And so you'll have to know how to use a zip program on your computer to create a zip file containing your score. Then you'll be able to attach the zip file containing your score. Even if you don't think your issue is specific to your score, that is a common thing where people assume, hey, I have this problem, it probably affects everyone. It might not. It very often is only one score. This one I know affects all scores. And I really know that. But don't assume that. If there's any chance, if you can't reproduce that in a brand new score you just created from scratch like I did, then attach your score and then be real precise in those steps. Like go to measure 27 of this score, do blah, 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 and see error. So there you go. So I'm now going to submit my issue because I now have enough information. Here's where I pasted that image, and all you see is like a gobbledygook-looking file name. But when I say submit new issue, you'll now see the issue has the nice picture there. And so this is all the information programmers should need to be able to fix this. So so yeah, Marla, if you have other people who are capable of doing this, you do the work of narrowing down the problem and then let someone else handle the details of submitting it. That's a great luxury. But most of us don't have that luxury to have someone else to do that for us. So if we want to report a problem, this is the process. All right. So took a while to go through all this. It was pretty technical. And but yeah, hopefully it will prove useful to someone. So anyhow, glad I did the session. Tomorrow, music. Next week, music. We'll be looking at a particular score that I'll look at in MuseScore as part of the Score of the Month series. USAF. Oh, great. Okay, so that is the story. And let's speaking of music, let's hear some music. By the way, see that invisible glissando here? That's there because of a limitation in MuseScore 3. MuseScore 4 won't have that limitation. It'll play falls directly, but there's a bug there involving ties and falls, and maybe that one's fixed now, maybe it's not. I'm going to find out tomorrow. Yeah, so that's been a thing about the whole process of testing and finding and reporting bugs, and yeah, it's not for everyone, but for the people who do have the time and energy to devote to it, I want to help you be successful. do your homework in trying to figure out how to reproduce this bug. If you can't reproduce the bug yourself, if you don't know precise steps to do it, that every time someone follows those steps, they're going to reproduce, then you're not ready to submit the bug yet. Getting to the point of knowing exactly, do this, this, this. If you can't write down the recipe, that's the part you need to spend some more time figuring out how to reproduce that bug. That's the most crucial thing, but yeah, that could be the subject of another session at some point. So, anyhow, I will see you all next time. Tomorrow, music masterclass. Next week, more MuseScore Café, and we'll be, we'll be dealing with actual scores and stuff, not all this technical mumbo jumbo next time. So, thanks everyone. See you later.